I want to talk to you today about something that's truly tragic. I get two kinds of bad news in the business of dealing with Islam. One is what Islam does, and then the other news, which is equally bad, is how we respond to it, because that is bad news too. World Watch put out a list of the 50 most oppressive nations and cruel nations when it comes to the persecution of Christians. Well, this within itself is terrible. You notice something about the list that other than North Korea, which is number one, all the rest of them seem to all be Muslim nations. Not exclusively, but most of them. But in particular, it's not just Islam. On this list, there's an even worse problem. Notice this: Syria is number 3, Iraq is number 4, Afghanistan is number 5, and Libya is 13th. Now, what's unusual about these persecution leaders? The United States is involved in all of them. Big time, to the tune of billions of dollars and even lives of our own soldiers. And what do we get out of this? More persecution of Christians. And what do we get from our own government? It doesn't happen. The State Department is not upset. The State Department is not issuing any demands. So the United States is complicit in the greatest human rights tragedy in the world today, the persecution of religious minorities. Let me give you an almost small and trivial example. You may not remember, but I think it was about a year or two ago, there was this big ruckus because you see a Koran got burned in a pit at some Afghan base. And let me tell you, the State Department was so upset. Apologies were issued. It was talked about how precious and holy and sacred a Quran was and what idiots and fools we were for burning a Quran. However, before that, there had been a lot of Bibles delivered to Afghanistan, and they were in some language, Pashtun, I think, and they were all burned in a garbage pit, and not a word was said. Now, it's not that we shouldn't have burned the Bibles or not. It's that no matter what issue we deal with Islam, we find that our government is so understanding about Islam, bends over so far backwards, including being silent about crimes and by criminals who are killing people simply because they don't like what they do for a religious choice. This is tragic. Now here's another way that we are involved and morally culpable. Look at our media with regards to the persecution of Christians. Do they cover it? Oh, if it's big like Mumbai or 9/11, they'll do it then, but only major events that deal with Islam are covered. All the rest of them are ignored. Here's what's tragic. We're not asking for any media bias. All we're asking is that the media report it and not be such an apologist for Islam by being totally quiet. A rough estimate is that the United States media hides, obscures 98% of all the violence against Christians, and other religions for that matter. Now here's the deal. Our media is silent with regards to this evil, but do you know what media is not silent? The Muslim media. They cover it all in great detail, because for them, it's under the heading of we're winning, not losing. The only place we find out about these tragedies are on websites. The only place to find the truth in English is on the web. Here's another example, by the way, about how we seem to always back the wrong people in the wrong way. The United States was so happy, the media was so happy when the Muslim Brotherhood overthrew Mubarak. Great things were promised. This was a new dawning. And what is it a dawning of? The murder of Christians. So here we are backing those who persecute Christians. In Syria, we're backing the so-called rebels who are persecuting Christians. But it's not just the media. The churches are also silent, and their silence also aids the persecution of their own brothers and sisters. Why is it that a church cannot manage to mention the great tragedies that happen to Christians every week? The individuals are passive. Church members say, well, my church just doesn't want to talk about this. Our universities, are they going to talk about it? There's not going to be any seminars at universities about persecuted religious minorities. They're too busy with boycott Israel movements. So what are we going to do? Well, as individuals, you need to start moving with your own sphere and talking about the fact that we are complicit in the greatest human rights violation in the world. we are backing the wrong people. Our media, our universities, and our churches are backing the oppressors, not the victims. So as an individual, the spheres that you move in, you need to start talking about the fact that America is complicit in the greatest human rights violation in the world today, the persecution of religious minorities. Thank you.